If there is one thing that is going to be certain about 2023 is the macroeconomic uncertainty. So, what are some of the trends that you need to know to plan for your retail transformation initiatives? That's what we have discussed in this video. Hello, everyone. My name is Sam Gupta, and I am principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent ERP, e-commerce, and digital transformation consulting firm. We help our clients when they undertake digital transformation initiatives, from the strategy phase to business case development to the planning as well as implementation. Let's get back to today's topic, which is going to be the top 15 retail digital transformation trends. To compile this list, we speak with many executives just like you, and we are also analyzing the macroeconomic trends. So now let's look at the list. Number 15 on our list is personalization. And if you look at the overall macroeconomic environment, it is going to be cost focused. For the most part, when you look at any of the personalization technology as well as tools, they are going to be slightly easier to implement just because you don't have to change the foundational architecture. The personalization tools do not require as thick integration. And if the personalization is going to be primarily just limited to one function, then it's going to be easier. If you are talking about the cross functional, cross departmental, cross system personalization, that is still going to be difficult just because any of the complex integration projects are probably not going to be approved in 2023. The other factor that we have with personalization is the ROI. It's measurable and it's easier to plan in general. So personalization is definitely going to be the trend for 2023, and that's number 15. Number 14 on our list is the improved forecasting capabilities for channels. And this is in line with the Amazon's recent announcement related to the bidding for warehouse utilization. From Amazon perspective now, the merchants and as well as the retailers, they are required to forecast the capacity that they are going to be needing, or it is going to get more expensive if they are not able to plan. Typically, the planning and forecasting is far harder, especially if you don't have the systems as well as planning maturity as part of your processes. So that's going to be difficult, especially for the smaller merchants. Now, if your major revenue share is due to Amazon, then you don't have a choice. You have to invest in the systems and the tightly integrating of the processes. But some merchants might not choose to sell on Amazon if their margins are decreased. So overall, we are going to see investment in the improvement forecasting capabilities, and you cannot do that unless you invest in the integrated systems, data, as well as processes. So this trend is definitely going to be continued in 2023, and primarily that is due to the channels enforcing rules, and the merchants are not going to have as much clout. So that's number 14. Now, number 13 on our list is the vertical marketplaces controlling a major chunk of market share. We have seen a lot of vertical market share pop up in general, and now we are going to see a lot more, especially because some of the tech vendors that are struggling to survive in the market, they might choose to pivot their business model to vertical marketplace, just because they have far deeper expertise on tech and marketing. So for them, it's going to be much easier to be able to launch these initiatives. Because of this trend, we are going to see the reduced traffic share for legacy distributors as well as retailers. So they need to do something to be able to protect their market share. These marketplaces that we are going to see are going to be charging substantial margin, just like Amazon. So it's a threat for the legacy distributors as well as retailers. And this trend is likely to continue in 2023. So that's number 13. Now, number 12 on our list is the brand consolidation to gain operational efficiencies. In general, because of so many different forces that are happening in the market, whether you think of the increased spend on media, on Google, or increased software licensing fee because of Shopify, as well as some of the comparable vendors increasing their fee. And then in general, the costs are going to be higher, and it's going to be really hard for these smaller brands to be able to sustain as well as survive. And that's where the private equity is going to start consolidating some of these smaller brands, and the larger brands are also going to be acquiring. In general, the M&A activity is going to be slower, but if there are going to be any sort of depressed assets, then the private equity as well as the large brands are going to be buying them in the hope of gaining the operational efficiencies. So that's the number 12 trend that we are likely to see in 2023. Now, number 11 on our list is the increased competition to retain organic rankings. And because of the reduced spend on the media as well as the marketing spend, the search engines revenue is going to be reduced as well. And because of that, they are going to make it much harder for the brands to be able to rank organically. And because of that, we are going to see a lot more competition. The other factor that we have is, especially if you look at the modern tech stack in general, that is going to be faster, it's going to be lightweight. So, and they are also going to be better with content just because of this composable aspect. So these brands are going to rank higher in general, and because of that, the smaller brands are going to face much stiffer competition. The mid-market is going to forced to innovate just because of all of these forces. So that's the number 11 trend that we are going to see in the market for 2023. Now, number 10 is going to be the blurring line between enterprise software. We already saw some trends. For example, Ecommerce pushing their offline orders to Shopify BigCommerce. And this is because of this whole unified commerce experience where the lines between your B2C and B2B experience are blurring. Traditionally, the B2C architecture was completely separate from B2B. You could have the clear lines between these two, but now because of the unified commerce experience expectations, when the customer is going to walk from your B2C to B2B channels, it's going to become much harder. And that's why you need the customer 360 at the OMS layer. So we are going to see the architectural boundaries blurring more in 2023 in general. And that is going to change how the enterprise software capabilities are going to be developed as well as innovated. So that is going to change your architecture as well in terms of how you are going to be doing the commerce across systems. So that's going to be the number 10 trend, the blurring lines between different enterprise software. Now, number 9 on our list is MicroFulfilment. We have already seen announcement from major brands such as Macy's utilizing their stores as the micro-fulfillment center just because they are going to be closer to the customers. Customers want that, and that is the significant competitive advantage for the brands, especially the larger ones who have invested in technology. And it provides them the advantage in competing with the small to medium size merchants. And this trend is going to be continuing even in 2023. The brands that are investing in modern technologies, it's going to be much easier for them to spin off these micro fulfillment centers and utilize their existing assets without investing significantly in the warehouse and the stores. So micro fulfillment is definitely going to be a trend that we are going to see in 2023. Now, number 8 on our list is birth of newer channels. And some of these channels never existed traditionally. For example, let's say if you talk about the commerce experience on the airports or in the shopping malls or on buses. Now, because of the composable architecture, it's going to be much easier to spin off these channels and create new channels, be closer to the customers where they are hanging out. So now we are going to see a lot more channels, and that is going to put pressure on the smaller merchants because they'll not be able to compete with the larger brands. So that's going to be a trend that we are likely to see in 2023, and that's number 8. Now, number 7 on our list is the reassessment of e-commerce margins and birth of newer payment methods. The e-commerce margins, if you look at 2023, again, because of all of these forces, such as increased media spend, the software licensing fee, as well as some of these channels increasing their fee, now brands need to re-evaluate their margins and they need to reallocate their channels depending upon if they are going to be profitable or not. So that will change the integrations, that will change where you are going to be selling. So we are going to see a lot more reshuffling in general in the commerce efforts. The other factors that you are likely to see is going to be the newer payment methods in increasing the loyalty of these brands. The reason why they can do this is because of the easier integration as well as the easier tax. So we will see a lot more newer payment methods, for example, newer subscription-based models or any other payment methods that are going to make it easier for the consumers. So that's the number 7 trend that we are likely to see in 2023. Now, number 6 on our list is the generative AI enabled commerce capabilities. We have already seen in 2022 that the ChatGPT is already used to generate the product descriptions, and companies are investing their R&D dollars in finding out how else the generative AI can be used to improve the commerce experience. So we are going to see a lot more adoption as well as the newer use cases that we have not thought before. So that's definitely going to be a trend for 2023, and that's number 6. Number 5 on our list is composable omnichannel as well as unified commerce. Traditionally, if you pay attention to the whole unified commerce experience as well as omnichannel, it was just a concept because reconciling inventory across channels was always harder. But now with the composable architecture, it's going to be much easier to enable the composable omnichannel as well as unified commerce experience, especially the larger brands that are really investing in the composable stack are going to be ahead of the mid-market, but the adoption is going to be drive the expectation from the consumer perspective, and then we are going to see the smaller brands adopting this as well. And this is the trend that is going to continue in 2023, and that's number 5. Number 4 on our list is sunsetting of legacy retail technologies. We already saw some of the legacy retail technologies, for example, Oracle sunsetting their ATG portfolio, then Kibo spinning off their personalization unit. There is the expectation that SAP might spin off their Qualtrics business unit, as well as Salesforce is rethinking their investment into Tableau as well as Slack. So now this all is going to drive a lot more trends from the legacy technology perspective, and some of the companies, especially if they are going to struggle with revenue as well as cost, then they are going to be rethinking their strategy if it makes sense to invest in these legacy technologies, and if the install base is not going to be as high, they are likely to spin off some of these legacy retail assets. So you as a merchant need to think if you can retain or remain on those legacy technologies, or you need to think about innovating your architecture. So this is the trend that is going to continue in 2023, and that's number 4. Number 3 on our list is platform consolidations among enterprise software vendors. And we have already seen some consolidation happening, even though the M&A activity is going to be slower. But the private equity as well as the larger enterprise software vendors are exploring if they can acquire the assets that they can integrate and make the go-to-market easier for some of these platforms. So that effort is going to continue, and this is going to change the architecture for the brands. If you have utilized a specific platform, some of these large software vendors, what they might do is they might stop selling in the competitive marketplaces, and you might need to think about the architecture from that perspective. So this particular trend is likely to continue in 2023. There are going to be a lot more platform consolidation, whether you talk more from the S&OP perspective, from the e-commerce, ERP, all of those are going to be thicker, bloated, pre-integrated, and again, you need to think about your architecture. The traditional architecture may not be as relevant as the consolidation happens in the enterprise software market. So that's number 3 trend on our list. Now, number 2 on our list is the supply chain disruptions redefining customer experience. And in general, the reshuffling of the supply chain, whether you think of any of the macroeconomic factor or geopolitical factors, or just the supply chain disruptions across the nation or internationally, all of these are going to drive where you are going to be sourcing the materials, and that might redefine the customer experience touches as well, depending upon when you might be able to deliver. So what you could do traditionally might not be possible just because of the supply chain limitations, and that is also going to have a hit on your margins. So supply chain is going to be redefining the customer experience, and that's going to be number 2 trend that you are going to notice in 2023. Now, the number 1 trend is the tightening of marketing budgets and growth initiatives. In general, CFOs are going to be the primary stakeholders, whether they approve the marketing budget or not. So any of the large transformation initiatives are probably going to take the backseat. The marketers are going to be required to prove the business case, do the MVP, and demonstrate the ROI much quicker. And if we are not able to do that, then the budgets are not going to be approved. And then they are also going to be required to deliver more with less. So they need to be creative in general with the marketing initiative, and that is going to drive what kind of transformation initiatives the brands are going to be initiating, as well as they are going to be successful with. So that's the number 1 trend. Now, if you enjoyed this video, we are going to include the link of a detailed article, so you may want to check that out. Also, we publish this podcast in the audio form on Apple, Google, and Spotify. So don't forget to check that out, as well as hit the subscribe button if you like. And we publish these videos on a weekly basis, so hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Also, if you have not checked our digital transformation report for 2023, we include a lot of these lists, as well as the recommendation for how to pursue the digital transformation initiatives. So don't forget to check that out. On that note, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one.